Hey, Scott Narver, I got a text message from Shane McMahon.
Jake Lloyd Bacon, what did he say?
He wants our help coming up with a new last name.
Oh, yeah. It's probably a good time to change it.
Yeah. So I was thinking maybe like Shane Benoit.
Hard pass. What about Shane McRyan?
Ugh, gives me Joey Ryan vibes. Not a good one, no. Shane Lesnar?
Shane McSnooka.
Shane McWarrior.
Shane McTrump.
Oh, there it is. Perfect.
What are we going to do with the McMahon Legacy today on Pro Wrestling Palskis?
Hey, Scott Narver.
Hey, Jake Lloyd Bacon.
And hello to everybody out there listening. Welcome to PWP. Definitely going to be a very fun show ahead of us today. Because when I think about what's going on in the world of WWE corporate, I think of the word fun. And I also think of fun.
I think controversial and upsetting.
Oh, okay.
We are two different sides of this story. I tell you what.
I was gonna do a segue there, and I was gonna be kind, but you know what? Forget that. I'm gonna just say, acknowledge him, Mike Lucas, aka Hackensack, current PWP World Champion. Should we throw undisputed on there somewhere?
No, I think it's always disputed. I think people are constantly in our Discord, which is free of charge. There's no, doesn't cost you nothing. So people are constantly going like, nah, bullshit. They're that champ. No way.
Already added champ to the championship history page. Those of us joining us live via the super exclusive patron only live stream are chatting. If you want to get access to this live stream, you got to become a patron over at patreon.com/PWPalskis. But they're chatting about the new pre-show standby screens that we've got, and I have one of those as the entire championship history. And Tim Redbeard,
the finest Korean animators that money can buy.
No, I'm
working on it.
I'm Italian, mostly Italian heritage by way of America. Tim Redbeard says the championship history one looks like early AEW.
I guess fired.
I guess because every month there was just a new champion. There's some stats on that page too now. You know, Andrea Beeler has most reigns and longest reign. But Mike Lucas, current PWP champion, this is his fourth reign. If he wins one more time before Andrea does, they will be tied for most championship reigns. And if you want to get in on all this thrilling action, you got to become a championship Palski over at patreon.com/PWPalski. Scott, I was thinking, what if I do this? Wait, for the video people. What if I switch our sides? I'll throw people for a loop. Wait, come on, switch. Oh my God, we're on different sides of the screen now. Oh, but now it looks like I'm not looking at you.
Oh, because you love corporate America and phones that are landlines. That's what it's all about. I'm like, no way. Work at home and have cordless phones. Like that's the way. That's why we fucking are on two different sides here, buddy.
All right, I'm ignoring all of that. Today we are
he's just ignoring everything. He ignores it when he feels it's in territory that's controversial, and then he ignores it when I make it silly.
Have another
You're going to be really uncomfortable for the rest of this episode. I tell you that now.
It's another installment of what are we going to do with the McMahon Legacy is the topic this time. What McMahon do you think we're talking about? We're talking about Shane, right? What are we going to do about the Shane Legacy, about his WrestleMania win streak? Declan McMahon, is that one of Shane's kids?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I don't know. Jesus Christ. He's Jesus Christ. Declan McMahon was Jesus Christ. I didn't realize he had a different name. I thought his first name was Jesus and his last name was Christ. And
you worship who you want to worship in the McMahon family, buddy. That's
his nickname
all
was
for you.
Of Nazareth. Oh man, the chat is bumping. What are we gonna do about the McMahon legacy? All right, so listen. It's been a couple of weeks. We weren't like, it wasn't a recording week when all of the fucking shit dropped, when the lawsuit came to the public eye. It all kind of happened in the matter of days while we were dark, so to speak. We don't need to recap. People are, if you're a wrestling fan, I'm assuming, unless you live under the Dwayne The Rock Johnson, that I assume everybody knows what's going on. Vince McMahon is being sued. The charges are horrific. The accusations are horrific. There's sexual abuse. There's sex trafficking. There's a horrifying play of power here that is absolutely and undeniably atrocious and undefendable. And the allegations are...
I think we do have courts, so I think they are going to try and defend it.
Sure. But I don't know. With all the receipts that are there, and I know there's a lot of people online who were like, well, it's only one side of the story, blah, blah, blah. Fuck you. The devil doesn't always need an advocate. Everything is right fucking there. To me, this is as obvious gets. And this is so much bigger than, somebody from speaking out, getting fired, and them moving away from somebody. This is so much bigger than even the atrocities around the tragedy of Benoit. Because, yes, Benoit was a main event talent and a star and had his future ahead of him and was a big part of WWE. His part of WWE pales in comparison to that of Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
I don't think they're comparable in any way.
I'm not at all. Yeah.
The idea of like, oh, these are the worst things that I've ever heard. These are the two worst people in wrestling. You can dig a little, do a little bit more digging and find some more people. But
that's not even what I'm referring to, though. I'm not comparing the two.
The Benoit of it all is a man with a damaged brain who committed an atrocious act, two atrocious acts, in a weekend's time, and then took his own life, compared to years and years of someone who didn't have
100%
a distorted mind, medically speaking, that just concussed and it was the brain of an Alzheimer's patient. We know of this being in recent years, and we don't know how many more years this goes back. We're finding out that we're going back and hearing the stories or cases that were brought up before that seemed more minor in comparison, or we don't have all the details of it. So this is conscious acts.
Yes.
And
I do just want to clarify, just before we move too far past the point, I was not comparing the two's actions. I was discussing the premise of our program about what do you do with the legacy of it.
Gotcha.
I was comparing the erasure of Benoit from W programming and his part in WWE to what do we do with Vince McMahon, who you cannot separate the two. The history of WWE is the history of Vincent K. McMahon. I just want to reiterate, that's what I was clarifying. I was in no way comparing the two actions.
Well, it still addresses that point that people are making anyway.
Sure, sure, 100%. Yeah. I mean, it's from strictly a business standpoint, there's no way TKO is fucking touching Vince ever again. If this whole thing settles out of court and it just sort of goes away as far as the public conversation, they're still not going to bother taking a risk with him ever again. I think we have seen the last of Vincent K. McMahon on WWE TV. Like, period. Full stop, is my opinion.
Which of any new appearances of him. I would say there will probably be an acknowledgement when he passes.
Sure.
I can imagine that. I can imagine
I can see that.
that we see something and it's probably, heavy loaded on the front end of like, hey, all these things were terrible, but we acknowledge the passing of someone who brought this coming together. I think that's about it.
I also think
everything else is, I don't think that Hall of Fame is going to be happening.
Just going to say, I think this is the definitive. We will never get Vince and K. McMahon in the WWE Hall of Fame.
But that in and of itself seems a little dopey, doesn't it? Right. Like, would you say Dragon Wagon Radio, your podcast empire that you've
myself
created,
in it,
and you have many shows on here. You've had many talents that have worked for you and that are currently working for you, and just say it blows up, becomes like the podcast empire, and like everybody's shows are on it, and then there is even like hey, let's have a Hall of Fame. All these people have contributed to these shows in such big ways. If you yourself were to be in that Hall of Fame, to me, that's just goofy. It's like, no, the Hall of Fame it's yours. It's
my house. It's it's Vince's house. He owns the Hall of Fame.
He doesn't need to be in his own thing that he made. Like that's, so when people bring up that point, like, oh, he's never going to be in the Hall of Fame. Like he doesn't, he fucking made it. He doesn't care.
Yeah. Regardless, not in the cards. I do think that it feels so unprecedented because the only thing I can attribute it to is like a stand-up comedian who's known for being vulgar, maybe, and then something comes out about them being vulgar in life, and then they cut to clips of him or her saying things. Like, it's the only thing I could equate to, because like we have footage of this character, Mr. McMahon, that he was playing, that lend itself to, it's fucking insane. I can't even wrap my head around how insane this all is, considering who he was on television for so many years. But again, I feel like we've seen the last of him in anything new, maybe like you said, when he dies, but also what happens to, like, because of that, because there is literally footage of Mr. McMahon in the ring saying how depraved schmuck he is. That footage is going around of him like failing the fake a lie detector test in some segment, right?
Yeah.
What does something like NBC Universal do with Peacock before fucking episodes where you have this guy who's now all the stuff has come to light and who's saying these things? Like, do we start getting them scrubbing things because they end up being too offensive? Do we end up getting, like you said, precursors on old episodes of things? Do they even go through all of that stuff? There's so much of it. Because it's so much easier to erase Benoit or a Hogan of recent era than it is to do. I would put this on par. I know they don't, but
they shouldn't. Yeah, sure. My strong stance is they should never erase any of this stuff ever.
Sure.
They shouldn't showcase it.
Sure.
There shouldn't be a, hey, you heard about Vince McMahon? Well, here's the top 30 craziest moments of Vince McMahon on Peacock.
100%.
It's there, and before any show, if they want to go to this, to the extent of this work, and I feel like when you're dealing with fucking billions of dollars and all the resources they have, yeah, you put a couple of people to work and go,
right,
start scrubbing, start going through episodes of Raw and SmackDown,
right,
and once you get through that, start looking through Tuesday Night Titans and all the other old shit that he's in. And then any episode that you feel like needs a little bumper beforehand, like in light of recent events, Vince McMahon was playing a character on television and this was all meant to be entertainment. It does not reflect any of the actual, events that anyone acknowledged took place, or it was not written as a real life character.
Much like other fictional characters depicted in film and television. The opinions of said characters do not reflect the opinions of anybody here at NBC Universal or
at Peacock.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. By the way, Champ Mike Lucas in the chat, I guess in reference to us talking about Hall of Fame, says they'll more likely name an award after Vince. Ooh. I don't know.
They have the Warrior Award.
You're not wrong. But
he's an outward piece of shit, and 100%. That is searchable, and you can find it, and they went, you know what? Let's name something after him.
You're not
and
wrong.
There was no making amends, or Warrior never came around and went, I said some stuff that I don't feel anymore.
Right.
I'd like to.
Right.
I'm a different person now.
Yes.
That didn't happen.
No, not at all.
He's still showcased and used in many a thing.
Totally.
So.
He's in all the commercials for the new game because there's some DLC with him or some shit like that. Yeah.
They pick and choose, or if it's not that big of a deal, they don't. But Vince is undeniably like it's while we haven't recapped it, but Janelle Grant's being at the forefront right now of being the victim who's put the lawsuit forward.
Who knows by the time this airs whether there's more, because the rumor mill has been that people have been reaching out and sharing their stories, and now we might see others come forward.
There will for sure be more. We know there are already 2 other women who are not named.
Yes.
And whether Janelle Grant's lawsuit will help take down any standing NDAs.
Right.
So then anyone and everyone who has signed an NDA then can come forward. And we'll know about other victims, but I think this will be an ongoing conversation regardless of all things happening. But trying to remember the point. Oh, so sorry. With Vince though, we're going to find out more. I don't think you should ever, in the history of all this, there should be acknowledgement of this was the person. We know him to be a bad person. He did these terrible things, but if you start removing all of it, it's tricky because he's integral.
And it's that was my initial
Stone Cold
point.
Steve Austin alone.
Right.
The entirety. And I don't think we've heard from him yet, because that's got to be a fucking major blow to a guy like that goes, the majority of my popular part of my career is directly tied to Vince McMahon on camera.
Right.
And I know there are people that go, I can't watch it. I can't watch something with Vince in it. It's terrible. It's awful.
Totally get it.
And they're just never going to watch that stuff again or for the first time. And that's their choice, and that's fine. But if there are people that can separate the art from the artist and just want to relive the memories and go, I just want to see Stone Cold. I want to see Stone Cold beat him up over and over again. Like, that brings me joy. They need to have that option, I feel.
Yeah. And, again, I talk about this a lot in film and television whenever, something comes to light of some star or actor and people are like, yeah, no, fuck this. I'm never gonna, Mel Gibson is polarizing, Tom Cruise, like these people who are just like, I can't fucking watch this person. I go like, you know what? I get it.
Oh, because Tom Cruise,
but simultaneously
real good.
But
okay,
for every piece of shit that there is on this screen of yours, like there's 300 employees who all also made this work. And at some point it's the same way with wrestling where it's like, if those things start getting scrubbed and pulled, how does that affect the money that those other people might make because they might have deals that get them residuals or who knows? You know what I mean? Like you never know how this stuff works, especially in film and television where every contract is different, but it's like, yeah, I don't want to watch this one person who has this part in this movie. And so I'm not going to do that, which means all these other people who were just in this movie because they needed the work or they wanted to make this project, they don't get any money now because of this other. It becomes this very slippery slope of like high horses and whatnot. But,
to that point too, someone brought this point up to me a long while back saying, okay, the talent on screen, if they're a piece of shit that causes everyone to go like, I don't want to watch it, or this should be boycotted, or this entire project should be brought down in the ways that you're talking and it affects everyone. Mm-hmm. Now, what if you find out that the boom operator for every segment of WWE television is a fucking serial killer and it's killed 378 people?
Yeah.
Do you go, well, I never see them, so it doesn't matter, but it's like, no, they are a part of all these segments.
Yep.
And it's the same idea. Just because you don't see them on camera, they're still affiliated with it. So chances are, just by, dealing with numbers alone, there's a piece of shit somewhere that's not on camera in some way that has produced something that is a tech person. So I think the overall rule should be you just allow it to exist and you remove any perks that person could ever get. You remove any rewards that they could get. If they also are getting residuals or bonuses or whatever it is, it's like that ceases and we make sure victims or the other talent or you just lose all rewards, all gains.
Right.
They don't go to you anymore. Right. Thanks for doing it at the time. We didn't like what you did in your off hours, and we move on.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I think we kind of agree on that. It becomes tricky when it comes to certain talent. Like you said, Stone Cold is intrinsically tied forever to Vince. What about the other members of the family? How does this affect Stephanie?
Hornswoggle.
Oh, he's fine. He was under the ring the whole time. No, he had no idea what was going on. He's innocent in all this.
Other stuff going on down there. Why do you think he had the little people's court? Constantly defending dad.
By the way, Mike Lucas in chat says he can watch the stuff of Vince being a dick boss, but the sexual stuff is cringe and obviously doesn't age well. Yeah, I mean, that stuff was hard for me to watch before any of the stuff came out because it was just creepy and weird. When he was just trying to be Jerry Springer. But yeah, but anyways, what to the question? What do we do with the McMahon family?
I think the biggest thing that has struck me in all this is thinking about Linda McMahon.
Okay.
And everything going on with her. And first off, this feeling of, do you just have a really bad judge of character, or have you been positioned in your life that you've been forced to be in the company of terrible, rich assholes?
My guess would be the latter.
With Trump. Yep. And McMahon.
My guess would be the latter.
And others. And if there's career opportunities, she has to put up with all the stuff. I know she hasn't lived with Vince for a number of years.
Yep.
Already. There's always been rumors of that they're married.
Right.
But they're not in a relationship anymore.
They're separated.
Yeah. That she's probably had relationships on the side, but chances are it was something normal where it's like,
healthy.
She has some she sees or a boyfriend or something. And the assumption being, because we'll get into this, like who all knew and what was going on, that there was probably some agreement of, yeah, Vince, you go ahead and you have your relationship. That's fine. But something that is also like a girlfriend, or yeah, there's someone I see on Thursdays, or there's someone in this town that I see. And it's all just kind of within the normal realms of reality of wrestling, or you see whoever you see, and it's nothing criminal, and you're not holding money over them. It's just other side relationships.
Right.
So this is horribly embarrassing, what the kids are going through, what Stephanie and Shane, as far as the career and the business and what they can and can't have. I'm hoping that at some point Linda wants to address this in some way, whether it's a book or a interview that someone wants to sit down with her and she can just,
what did you know? What don't you know? How did you feel about, your involvement or lack thereof? Yeah.
If she just wants to cut ties, if it's, look, I'm just going to stay married to him on paper because it's just too much, but I want to publicly acknowledge I don't have anything to do with this. Right. I don't love him. I love my family. And I want my family to be safe and secure, and I don't want them to spend time with him. I don't want them to see him. It's their choice ultimately. But just this, if she wants to make a public separation, all that, I want her to have the platform, and that fans and other people can just hear it, and she can have a clean slate because she's older in life, and just whatever feels good for that. I hope she can have the opportunity to do that.
You think she goes back to being Linda Edwards? She drops the McMahon of it all? Or is the McMahon? Would. Yeah.
Right? Like, I know you've gone through
personal
a period in your life where you considered what your name is.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like, there's a part of me that also goes like, oh, Stephanie Levesque, that's now my public name. You know what I mean? Like I feel like the McMahon name
for
itself.
Some reason, I thought you said Linda, like Linda Levesque.
No.
Yeah. There's like a little.
She's gonna take her son-in-law's
cut in our feed, and I was like, now what are you doing?
Yeah. She's gonna take her son-in-law's name. Is that not common? That's how they do it in Connecticut. But I kind of feel like the name McMahon now, because it's so intrinsically tied with Vince, more so than his kids, more so like he's the patriarch. It all, I feel like that name itself will be taboo. Like that name will be wrestler under Vince McMahon's regime in WWE. Like, we no longer say that name.
That's the
fucking
part,
Voldemort.
Right?
This is the name that, thou shall not speak, whatever the fuck it says.
That's the David Benoit of it all, right? Like, he wants to go in and
right.
The living son of Chris Benoit wants to, as a few years ago, I don't know his current state, but he wanted to be a wrestler and say,
right,
I'm going to revalidate the name.
Right.
And I'm going to change the meaning of it. And I feel like that is certainly a burden on Stephanie and Shane.
Sure, 100%.
That if they go, no, this is the name, and I know there's good parts to this name. Like, our grandfather was great in this business and did wonderful things. And
totally.
Our mom carried this name, and I'm, you know what? We're gonna carry this name through, and we're gonna do good things with it.
Right.
Maybe they do, or maybe they're both sitting around like, I don't know. What do you think?
Like, is it an odds game where it's like, hey, there's at least 2 McMahons that aren't fucking awful, right? Linda, we could talk about her political affiliations all we want, but like, as far as like being a bad human being to other people, we don't know that she's abused anybody. You know what I mean? Like, and so is it just an odds game?
I think she did good work when she was working in the cabinet in the White House, like doing what she was supposed to do for her job.
Right. Yeah. But
who she's associated with, that sucks.
But I do think that at the end of the day, it is just a matter of like, when you say the name McMahon, there's not everybody goes like Vince is the guy. That's the name.
Ed
McMahon. He, you know what? Vince is so big that he took the name from Ed.
And Jim, famous football player Jim McMahon as well.
I don't know who that is. I mean,
a little sports thing for me.
Oh, look at you. You're so proud of yourself. Everybody in the chat, tell him good job. I
for
tough.
one, if I were Stephanie or Shane, I feel like you gotta ride through. You gotta have the name on the name. And I don't know, what would you do if you're a McMahon? Do you change it?
I would change it in a fucking heartbeat.
What do you change it to?
Well, whatever, like, Shane is a tough one. Shane is a tough one. Yeah.
Mizanin?
Shane Mizanin? No, just his last name is Mrs. Dad. Shane Mrs. Dad. I don't know. Shane is a tough one. Obviously, it's built in for Linda and Stephanie because society dictates, there's a precedence that like, women change their name based on husbands and whatnot. So if Linda says like, I'm separated, that's it, I'm actually going to go back to my maiden name, Stephanie can take her. I'm assuming that she already legally is Levesque. I would
Stephanie
assume
Helmsley.
That's what Shane does. Shane becomes Shane Helmsley, like Shane Helms, but just adds the Lee to it.
Or Shane Money. Here comes the money. Here
Gilbert, what does this mean? Jake changes Shane's last name to Hitler. Okay, I don't know why that has to do anything in the chat. But Gilbert does make a good point. He says, I bet you from now on, Vince McMahon will be called the founder. Oh, the founder of WWE. Like, he'll be referred to as like
that
a
makes
mystical.
Sense. I think that's a solid separation.
Yeah.
Or do you just go back and you go, you change his history and you just say, Vincent J.
Right.
is the founder of all of it. And it changed in 1980, whatever it is, to WWF. Like it changed, but the fucking founder, you just go back one and you go, no, we're truly acknowledging our legacy with WWF.
Right.
They can say that all day long.
We originally got the W out.
Wildlife Fund that's going to be pissed off about that.
Worldwide Wildlife Fund. Yeah.
Oh God, that's for fat animals.
Listen, I don't know why we have to body shame animals.
Because those fucking koala bears that are just sliding down the trees, trying to grasp on with their claws, and they're just ripping that bark down because those
are the koalas who live in their best life.
They eat too many fucking payday bars.
Fuck, man. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that we really get much of an acknowledgement of this on the product ever. Okay. As far as from the business side of things, we've already seen some acknowledgments. We've seen some lack of acknowledgments. We've seen some shitty acknowledgments.
All from Roman Reigns.
Oh, God damn it. Just like shut your fucking horse teeth, dude. But
why you gotta shame his fat horse teeth, huh?
Did you see the art for the upcoming watch along that I made? It made me laugh so bad. We have an upcoming watch along of Roman Reigns and I was trying to come up with the funny little blurb.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. It was the first thing that came to my mind, and it just I've been giggling about it ever since because I'm that kind of asshole who laughs at his own jokes. Anyways, I forgot what I was getting at, but acknowledgement. Yeah. I don't think that on the product, I think it's just like new era, we're moving on. It doesn't, when they talk about people, they'll just erase McMahon from the conversation in the way that they've done other talent throughout the years. I
think that's probably the best way to go, right? Do you think so?
On screen, 100%.
Yeah.
Your
press conferences, not so much, but
yes, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. When it comes to like the kayfabe presentation of the beginning and the outros from fucking Raw to SmackDown, whatever else, your PLEs, that's the product. That's the TV show and the movie, right? Like that's
the fun.
None of this stuff happens in that world. Yeah, exactly. Unless you want it to.
Yeah. That guy blew up in a limo in 2005.
Right. Yes. Oh, that guy died. What are you talking about? We killed that guy.
Yeah, I saw a video recently. I'm sorry to interject again, but I saw a video recently explaining retcon just in general, but then in comics history, and this guy who's a comic book expert talking about Marvel had done it in many times, but one of the big examples was Captain America had done like a lot of racist things in early comic books,
right?
And then at one point that they all went, look, we can't get rid of Captain America. He's wildly successful. We love the character,
right?
But we look back now and there's shitty things that he did. So it was another guy,
right,
who was pretending to be Captain America,
right?
So that was just an easy way of retconning, right? Like that never happened.
It's a story. So we're all just writing a story. Cody Rhodes been working on this shit forever.
Vincent Kennedy McMahon, spelled Kennedy, was an okay guy. He blew up in 2005,
right?
Because we found that there was no suspicious things that guy did. So, but the other one, the long lost twin brother, Vincent Kennedy, with 3 E's at the end, McMahon, was evil, and he showed up immediately afterwards.
Right, yeah.
And he's the bad one. So that's the on-screen stuff. Yay, everything's fine.
Right. But yeah, even with that as a possibility, they still just won't. You're gonna ignore all of this. Like, let's just fucking all move on for the sake of the product and the sake of people's enjoyment of the product. Because at the end of the day, we don't need to acknowledge it on air, right? We all know what Vince did for the industry, right? We're all aware. It's not a secret.
We're all currently here because of it.
100%.
We're all fans and talking because of WWE's is the brand of it all.
Right.
And everything else is an offshoot, is like cool, and we should support it and like it and find what we dig. But WWE is what brought us all together in the current state of wrestling.
To the dance. The reason we're all at the dance. But on screen, it's unnecessary. I think that it's fine. I mean, the reality is they've done it for a while. Do you know what I mean? Like there's giant slots where they don't talk about him at all, especially in his comings and goings over the few years, like with the exception of like, he's back or fucking Stephanie getting everybody to chant, "Thank you, Vince." Which by the way is a whole other piece of the speculation. People are like, well, were they aware this was coming down back then? And was it strategic? Every time Vince left and she came and Vince came and she left, was that strategic to keep the two of them separated, even though she was highly aware of everything and knew this was coming? Like, which is also part of it too. It's where it's like, it's not just about Vince on TV. It's like, does this just tarnish the McMahons? Like, have we seen the last of Stephanie as a character on TV? Have we seen the last of Shane as a character on TV? Like, we understand that Triple H is in the family, right? But he like gets this pass as being married into it versus being, a McMahon, even though he very much is a McMahon now. Is he the only member of the family?
He's not a McMahon now.
Yeah, I mean, I argue he is. His kids are McMahons.
Well, I mean, they're also Levesques.
Yeah, I know, but that's what I'm getting. I mean, this is how
they're a hybrid. It doesn't make him a McMahon. Like
they're a hybrid. Sure, I get what you're saying, but I'm talking about like
in the family of it. He's in the thick of it all.
Yeah,
so
100%.
But I don't look at you marrying into the family and then you are one of them now.
Okay.
Like he is his own history and legacy.
As I just had to explain, I'm very Italian. So I suppose this to me is just like, no, that's what it is. Like you're in the family now. Very
Gorbachev is calling you a mafioso in the chat. He's not wrong. What state are you in right now, Jake?
Forget about it. You mind your fucking business. All right. Mick Levesque says. Miss Levesque. I can never say that fucking name right. Anyways. My original point. Do we see Stephanie? Do we see Shane? Do we see the McMahon family in any capacity on TV?
Well, we'll see them on TV for sure. I think it'll be news clips in the courtroom.
Yeah. I meant
that we'll see that
on WWE programming is what I should say.
I think we will in time.
Okay.
I think there will probably be on both counts because Shane's got to still shrug off his last WrestleMania appearance.
Right.
I mean, both male McMahons have very embarrassing
finals
WrestleMania appearances.
It was him fucking up his leg, right? And was it the Miz? I can't remember what it was exactly.
It was
he hurt himself against the Miz, and then
Shane versus Miz in an impromptu match, and then doing the leap frogs and the drop downs, and then his fucking knee or whatever it was just failing on him. So that's not great. And then him being escorted to the back while Snoop cleans house.
Right.
And then Mr. McMahon having fought, what was it, McAfee? And then Stone Cold comes out and then beats up. McMahon gives him the stunner that gave us one of the greatest Mick Foley clips of all time.
Of all time. Yep. The best thing Mick Foley's done in years, and it wasn't even on TV, which is on his couch.
And if they ever make that ruling and there's something horrible that happens, a person that could do the mashup of Mick Foley watching the ruling of Vince McMahon being sentenced to jail and paying millions and millions of dollars, and cut to Foley laughing on the couch. God, same thing. Like it'll be a great mashup.
Yeah.
But I think Shane and Stephanie in time, with all involved, right, with TKO and them probably saying at some point like, hey, let's leave a better legacy for you. Let's leave something better for the fans and doing that. And obviously Triple H being close and married to the family and saying, hey, let's find the appropriate moment that they can thank and respect you. And we don't give people an open window to then say shitty Vince things, although they're going to have to live with that just in general.
Right. Yeah.
So it's, I don't think it's the end. Do you think it's the end?
Yes.
For them on camera?
I kind of do. I mean, maybe, I don't know. I feel like if I was TKO, if I had any say, I would just be like, it's just, we're going to cut ties as far as like the characters are considered. If Stephanie's going to come back and work and she ends up not being involved in this whole thing, which I'm not sure she isn't. I'm not sure Triple H isn't involved in this in some way, shape, or form. Like I don't want to think he is. And when I say he's involved, not that he partook in atrocities, but guilt by association or guilt by allowance. Like if he was aware of these things, and the amount of people who were aware and didn't do anything, couldn't do anything, had the ability, that's all going to be a giant fucking house of cards, I'm sure. But like,
because I would imagine for a fair amount of people that Janelle Grant and Vince McMahon, seeing them together and being like, oh, I'm going to make the assumption, since Vince is probably not going to say anything, or if he does say something, it's just like, oh yes, this is my partner, this is my girlfriend, this is Janelle. That there, it's just like, yep, that's who he's seeing.
Right.
And anything that it's not, or, oh, he's dating his employee, and that's all they know. Right. They don't know anything beyond that, because
it's just,
Why would anybody say anything beyond that? Because it's for people to say like how many fucking people knew. I think it's pretty obvious because it's wrestling. No one's quiet.
And Vince, in that fucking lawsuit, there's fucking receipts of the text where he explains to this woman, I told a ton of crew guys, I've been telling everybody and showing your pictures. Like, it doesn't seem to be something he kept secret. It seemed to be a thing that he bragged about in the company of other men, and for all we know, other women. But this seems to me like that really fucking creepy, like it's the same fucking shit that they defended fucking Orange fuck about in the inside
Orange Cassidy,
whatever fucking van. What was the name of that fucking, where he was like with the fucking grab him by the pussy clip? Fucking, I can't remember what the show was. Inside Edition.
Oh, you're saying Orange Cassidy?
Yeah,
I thought you were talking about Orange Cassidy. I'm like, what did he do?
Like it's the same sort of thing where it's just going to be like, oh yeah, he was just like talking shit, but like everybody knew. Like there's no way that the fucking guy, the cable wrangler, is aware that Vince is doing. Like everybody fucking knows. It seems to be the worst kept fucking secret, by his own fucking mouth.
And my assumption is when I see stuff like that, when he's talking to crew members, I don't necessarily think it's WWE crew members. I think that could be in Rhode Island, we did a show and I saw these guys because I knew I was never going to see them again.
Oh.
So I went and I bragged and I told them because otherwise he kept it pretty close in his inner circle of executive types.
But WWE,
I don't imagine that
staff travels though. They don't really have a ton of like city to city day players. Like their people travel.
But yes, they do. They have people that work in the building.
Sure.
That operate in that building and do stuff. And then while the majority of they have their crew assembling stuff, they still have people in the building that do tons of things. They don't just relinquish all control to.
And I don't know, like
WWE crew. That's how I took it.
Right,
but there's no specifics in that, so don't know.
I took it the opposite. I definitely feel like it's just because he feels like he can be comfortable saying this shit because he feels invincible, because he's probably been getting away with shit like this for fucking decades. Like I guarantee you this shit, the pandemic didn't happen and him be like, I'm going to turn into a fucking, fucking sexual predator and fucking sex trafficker because the COVID has me locked up and I'm bored. Like he's been doing this shit for a fucking while.
But the pandemic did bring on one crazy part of this. That's when Laurinaitis came back.
Oh, okay.
That's when he was hired again as head of talent relations.
Right.
Was during the pandemic. So there is some part of the story that's wild then, because is it everybody's gone? There's no one on the regular to be accountable to because all these people are working from home, or this happens and I'm bored and we're not going anywhere. I know. I'll bring that guy in that used to do this with me, or that we talk about it. So that's very strange because everyone said, like, why is fucking Laurinaitis coming back? What did he do to have this job again? And then there's that whole thing of his fucking ambulance chasing lawyer saying that Laurinaitis is a victim in all this, that McMahon made him do everything. And I know that always makes for someone I believe is when they come out and say after they're ratted out.
Right.
Yeah, he made me do it. Really? After the victim had talked about that you were involved in did all these things? Yeah. He forced me.
I was actually also going to sue, but I was late on getting the stuff and she got hers in right before me. I was totally going to sue as well because I'm also a victim.
That guy who's like who's way older than me. I couldn't do anything. Aren't you a Laurinaitis? Did you have a brother? Like, did you guys play football together? And he's like a road warrior or some sort of in a legion,
some sort of
what is it? A Doom, perhaps.
Yeah. Some sort of very well known, angry, aggressive, strong, tough, big, strong man trademark. I don't know. I all I was getting at though was that this shit's not new. I assure you, and my guess would be that there are people who didn't. I do think there is a possibility where there are people in the company that are like, fuck, I had no idea. Because Vince was a shrewd businessman for a very long time. But I think when you think about all of the controversies and all of the lawsuits, all of the things that he ended up on top of, all the fucking steroid cases, like all of the things that never were able to fucking take him down throughout the years as far as the business element of WWE. All the times he fucking sold the goddamn company to his wife.
McDivitt.
Literally.
He's got good lawyers.
All of the shit. He clearly knows how to stay in business. But I do think we always joked about like how when he gets older, he's getting more senile and how it's affected the product and what shit he finds. I guarantee you he got so fucking confident. He was invincible. His fucking buddies in the goddamn White House at some point. You know what I mean? Like this motherfucker thinks he runs the fucking world and nothing can touch him. So that's why I think he starts getting real loose lipped. He starts bragging. Desperately wants the young guys to think he's fucking cool, even though I'm sure these fucking poor guys he's talking to are probably like, Jesus fucking Christ, what are you telling me this for? You know, like I can only imagine, obviously there's all speculation and this is what my assumption is. But like this to me sounds like a guy who's always done this is becoming a little bit too cocky and arrogant about his place in the world. You know, now it's finally because of that it'll all come to light and he'll fucking pay for his fucking crimes.
That's why I'm hoping that the escalation of all this is new.
Right.
That forever if he's hitting on people that he meets in his fucking small bubble of a world, right? He's not going to the grocery store. He's not going to all these places. And he's making passes and he's making offers, but there's probably a lot that went like, no, or he's gross and inappropriate. But the later years, the Thunderdome and all this other more recent stuff that while I don't want there to have been the escalation, that I'm thinking that's when it arose, that you're talking about he's getting cocky, he's doing this, he's going, I can pay them now, I can make him sign an NDA, like nothing could happen to me.
Right, I see what you're saying.
Not foreseeing I'm going to sell the company and it could be liable. He's just thinking he's got all this control forever, that's when he's getting out of control and involving other people and doing horrible acts and feeling that his money that he can throw around and then not follow up on, not pay all the way.
Right.
That's the true arrogance, right?
Right.
It's, I can give you gift cards. I can give you a car. I can give you so much. And then I can make a contract with you to pay you and do whatever I want to you. And then when it comes down to it in this agreement of if it's out of fear, if it's out of hope of this career, whatever happened with Janelle, that he doesn't follow up on it. The true arrogance of that to go, I'm not going to fulfill my contract.
Right.
I don't fucking need to.
Right.
I don't need to pay you.
Right.
That's equally as disgusting as everything else.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know. I think at the end of the day, like I said, the dude, this fucking crypt keeper of a human, where it's like so unfortunate that he's given us so much to love in our lives. I feel the same way. I mean, like to a different extent, but I feel the same way about like Cosby, where I'm just like, fuck, like I grew up obsessed with goddamn fucking with Cosby as a fucking comedian. I listened to those fucking records and the fucking tape cassettes I had over and over again. I fucking love this dude so much. And it's like, fuck, of all fucking people. Now, I was more surprised about Bill Cosby than anyone. You hear this at Vince and you go, yeah, like it was not a stretch for me, you know?
Really?
Yeah, kind of.
No, because I mean, I have such trouble buying that.
Really? You were shocked at this behavior?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's crazy. It's not just, he paid people to have sex with and wasn't nice to them.
Right. No.
He's role playing that other wrestlers are watching. He's using dildos that he named after wrestlers.
Don't kink shame.
You know, all these things. This is incredibly shocking to me because the reality, like even when it comes to the Cosby thing or any of these things, where I guess the rational part of my brain is, you're on TV and you have fans, and there are probably people of all ages, of all different types that would probably go, yeah, let's go hang out. Yeah, slide into my DMs, Vince. Old Vince with mustache. You're hotter than ever.
Right.
Yeah. But that's not the appeal, right? That's not the power. That's not the Cosby, like, yeah, I could meet a woman, but I have this power. I could put something in their drink and do what I want to do. So that's where I can't, it's all crazy to me. It's all wild. It's I don't go like, yeah, well, that makes sense. I could see him totally doing that.
I had the opposite. I was like, yeah, this, I could hear this. I could see this. I didn't want to, but I was just like, yeah. And I guess because we've heard so much about his sense of humor and about like the things that he finds interesting, and we've heard about his like Arrested Development throughout the years.
His sexual abuse as a child.
I feel like
doesn't help anything.
No, of course not. And I just feel like, I think this is again. I Gilbert in Detroit says, yeah, I was not surprised, but I was nauseated. And that's kind of how I felt. Not entirely. Whereas opposite, where Tim Redbeard's on your side of this thought process, and he says he was a bit surprised.
Because how do you? That doesn't. I don't know if you're not surprised by the sex trafficking and all the other stuff that he does. I don't know how you just allow any of it or watch the show or anything and go, yeah, that guy's probably capable of all those things, but whatever.
Well, no, that's not entirely fair, because that's not to say that I assumed he would do these things. It's just, it's sort of like, there's plenty of people who, I can't come up with like a fucking analogy for this, but like, like there's certain people where you don't anticipate that they're doing a horrible thing, but if you heard a horrible thing happen about them, you're gonna be like, okay, you know what? Yeah, like I could see how these pieces of the puzzle fit together. Whereas there are some people where it's more of a 180, and it might be because of the fucking association with the character. It might be like literally he put his character on TV that we, despite knowing it's a character, we still fill in subconsciously. This is this person. This person writes this stuff, finds this stuff funny. And now that's not to say that like people can't be pure-hearted and perfect and everything and come up with horrible things. It's not like everybody who writes fucking horror is a horrible person. Everybody who can write, like, we have the ability to separate.
No, it's the rom-com people you gotta look out for.
Seriously. But
people can fall in love in an hour and a half.
I'm not saying that, but it is like, I don't know, there comes a time where it's like, a guy who is a fucking, avid gun enthusiast, goes on a fucking shooting spree, and you go like, all right, I can see those dots. Whereas like, fucking some bleeding heart hippie guy, in your town fucking, goes on a shooting spree, and you go like, all right, that's a bigger stretch for me. It doesn't mean I think that the guy was the gun nut was going to do something, but when you hear about it, you go, okay, all right, I it's horrific, but I see it. I guess that's my.
I just think
I'm explaining it correctly.
The level of crimes and things that Vince did are so beyond the realm of a little bit, where you go, oh, I can see that he had an NDA with a woman and paid her to have sex with her and then stopped paying her, as opposed to shitting on her head and, the stuff that we currently know about, the text messages, all that stuff, where it's like, that's far beyond any of the, oh yeah, I could see a little bit of that.
Right. Gilbert says, I guess the association with Trump does make it less surprising. That might also be part of it too. Yeah, I don't know. In any case, the premise of the program, what do we do with the legacy? I think we both agree, as far as on screen, you just sort of let it go away and you just don't acknowledge it. You don't highlight it. We don't have to do a, like you said, fucking best of Vincent Mania kind of thing. But
dude,
I don't think it gets erased.
Some of those in the past, like we've had the Vince moments of like the family, and
right.
I think you go back a generation. I think you just go back to grandpa.
Right. Yeah.
And you say it starts there and just change it.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think, Stephanie and Shane can get a pass, but like you said, I think it has to be TKO deciding to like create an image for them. But I do think that there is going to be an uphill battle for them, because public opinion does affect kayfabe, right? Fucking Rock. We talked about this last week with Rock and fucking Cody. Rock should just be always cheered. He's a fucking Rock, but it's like, well, we know too much, And there does come a time where, while I don't think they need to acknowledge it on Raw or SmackDown, I do think they need to acknowledge it. Press conference, public, whatever, where they put out stuff from the desk of kind of stuff. I do feel like they need to at least acknowledge it as people, as a human beings in their lives, in order for us to accept them on TV and cheer them.
The McMahon children?
Yes. And I include Triple H in this too, sort of, to be honest with you, especially after that fucking awful goddamn response at the press conference for Rumble.
When he Tony Khan'd it.
God, it was so fucking atrocious. Just write something. You knew you were going to get asked this. Jesus Christ. Anyways, so that's my thought process.
Or TKO, write something.
TKO, absolutely.
You know he's going to do this.
Yeah.
Make your puppet say what you want him to say.
Yeah. And the other part of this, we didn't really address it. It wasn't necessarily the premise, but I think we're going to get the same treatment with Brock. I think Brock is going to just get we don't talk about him.
His merch is on clearance.
Yep.
There hasn't been a outright, his contract is terminated.
He clearly got
separating.
Pulled from Rumble, from what we were told, if all the rumor mill is true. And I think that the stuff
it's not a rumor. That one's
confirmed
for sure.
Right? He was supposed to be in the Rumble and was not.
I think in that instance, everyone involved it probably says like, hey man, you're on hold for a while. Yep. Like we're currently cutting ties. We're not cutting your contract because we have to pay this, do that. We're not trying to make you angry because let's face it, if this were, say, Godfather, you go, hey man, we'll just figure it out a little bit. And he's like, cool, no problem.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, you just don't. Lesnar's truly a different beast where you go, hey, let's wait. Are you okay? Can we send you something? Can we send you some sides of beef? But you just wait, right? Yeah. Like, cause you can't, I don't like the era that we live in where it's just everyone's fired, everyone's done away with. I think this is a better strategy to go, hey, this seems likely. Right. And we don't know what's going on. It'd be great if you came forward and were just honest with us directly. But until some of this shit gets squared away, like you just go over there. Yeah. You just do other shit. And hopefully you have a cleared name and we can move forward and we can work together. That'd be great.
Right.
We don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah. I think that's a fair guess at, I think, what's to come for him. But with that said, it's fucking fascinating and horrifying and disappointing. And I'm interested to see kind of, down the line, what like the legacy of WWE ends up being for like the next generation and how much of the history is played up. I mean, like WWE's whole thing, the reason why they're the successful wrestling company is because for so long they were the successful company. So they are the ones with pro wrestling lineage on a global scale. And I know people are like, what are you talking about? New Japan has lineage and NWA and blah, blah, blah. And yes, but pale
in North America,
pale in comparison to the lineage of WWE. Pro wrestling is WWE to so many people. And it's going to be really interesting how, how it's viewed years and years and years from now, assuming that the McMahon
fucking 3 months from
of
now.
It all is erased. Yeah, sure. Well, we were there for it all.
Well, I always find this stuff fucking utterly fascinating. Like the human behaviors of it all, the craziness of it all, wrestling in general, all of this fascinates me. And I think to another level, I had kind of an epiphany in this past week where, not to get too political, but just to bring in the parallel of it, of the Trump of the world and the people that support Trump, where you see those interviews, right, where people are going like, hey, why do you like Trump? And they say the reasons why, and then maybe they're hit back with statistics or facts, or they show them something and go like, no, actually Trump didn't do these things. They're telling you he did these things. So why do you like him? And it's just like, unconditionally, these people like someone that you're trying to understand why, right? Like you're going, was it he's on TV? You're just aware of the personality forever? Like, what is it? And me as a viewer of that going, I don't understand.
Right.
I don't understand why they just like that person. And in this past week with Lesnar and with Vince, that I had the same sort of thing where I'm going, oh, I think I could still watch their stuff and I still kind of like them.
Right.
But I'm aware they're bad.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
But do I want to pay for a ticket to see something? No.
Right.
Do I want to buy something new and support them? No.
Right.
But I think it's only because of I've seen Vince on TV for 40 fucking years.
Exactly.
I've seen
right.
Lesnar for, 20?
We've talked about this for a while.
It's weird.
We've talked about this before, and I think you and I are kind of in the same camp of like, I'm able to separate art from artists pretty easily. And there are varying degrees of that, obviously. And a lot of it does come down to, the other participants, like we spoke about earlier. Like, it's easier for me to watch a movie with Tom Cruise, even though I fucking hate the guy and I fucking hate Scientology and I think they're fucking, one of the most evil, awful things in fucking human existence at the moment. It's easier for me to watch it because I'm like, well, I know all of the other people who put their work into this movie or whatever. And I there are some things that I think it's a little tougher to separate, direct one-to-one. I think comics is always tougher because it's like, there's nothing else up there but that comic, like it's a 1-to-1 ratio.
You wrote it. You
yeah,
said
it's a little bit tougher. And I also generally kind of have the rule too of it's like, well, anything that I enjoyed previous to knowing, I can still continue to enjoy. Had Cosby come out with an album in the past year or two, I wouldn't have checked it out. I wouldn't, and so there is a level of like, well, I didn't know up until all of this shit, or we didn't know collectively as a society, like, not to make light of all of these horrific things, but it's like, yeah, you can enjoy the murderer's art up until the point where you learn that they were a murderer.
Oh, the canvas has the victim's blood on
right,
it.
yeah.
Exactly. So
yeah.
Very well. It gave me empathy for these people that, because I separate Republicans and MAGA people.
Oh, same. Like I try to, yeah.
The Trump of it all, and seeing these people, and while I get frustrated or I get mad, or I just go like, just go away, that I'm going, I have a piece of that now that I can see for myself. That am I going to be watching Vince on trial and going like, yeah, but come on, he's Vince. That there's some part of me, and then like, hey, wake up.
Right, yeah.
This is not okay. You see the victim or you see somebody else and you go, oh, right. That's different now. But I'm clearly acknowledging that I have a struggle with this, and that it's because he's a monster of a human being. Right. Clearly.
But he also has a monster of a presence in your life.
Yeah. Again, I wouldn't know you if the connectivity, if it wasn't for Vince McMahon.
Right.
I wouldn't be doing the show if it wasn't for Vince McMahon.
You and I would not know each other. You and I would not be friends.
Yeah. Right. We're only friends because of Vince McMahon.
Right.
Which is weird.
We're on his text threads. Man, it's a fucking tragedy. And I hope that Janelle gets justice. I hope that there are actual repercussions for this that are more than just financial loss. Because that if this ends up happening out of court,
it's not effective.
It's not as effective. I mean, but also then that's not to say that if she decides to settle out of court, that's wrong of her. Like, it's entirely a fucking,
what does
prosecutor's fucking derogative, whatever it is, the word I'm looking for, prerogative to do what they want, that they feel like awards them justice of their version, because they're the ones who suffered. But unless
Janelle Grant's like, Rock is out, I'm facing Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. Like,
I told you,
God,
if you really wanted a pop for that fucking number 30 of that fucking Women's Royal Rumble, holy shit, this was her fucking year. Janelle Grant would have fucking won it, gone to Mania. We all would have been like, fuck yeah, she's the one. Give her the company. Yeah.
I'm really hoping that
not quite sure
anyone who is a victim is able to come
100%,
forward
100%.
and, unfortunately get in line.
And
but even just the idea of like tying Vince's old ass years up in court.
Right.
And hey, buddy, you can't go to the fucking gym today. You can't do this. You can't do that. Like, you have to go to court. You have to do things that you don't want to do. You don't control your life anymore.
I mean,
because you tried to control other people's and fuck it up. Like, even that is a little satisfying.
I also wouldn't mind both Vince and Trump just being in prison together and just being like, well, how'd you end up here?
Bunkmates. I gotta tell you, like,
hating each other. Just smells like.
It was very satisfying to send Warzeka just. You would not have been pleased of the writing session I had for writing a bunch of Vince Googling tweets just to kind of get it out.
Right. Of course. Yeah. Right. Sure.
And just be like,
yep.
Hey, I don't know if you want to use any of these, but here you go. Because that's how I tend to get my shit out is like,
of course.
I got to make jokes about it. I got to be inappropriate about it. It's just how I cope. It's how I deal.
Sure.
And I try to make it a point to not do that on our platform. Like, the occasional one comes out, but it's.
Well, it all depends. Listen, if you want to talk about where the line is in comedy, there is no line. The line is it funny, and is the premise of the joke not tearing down a victim? That's pretty much where it boils. Like, there's plenty to joke about here. It's just a matter of, does that joke belittle the situation that this woman went through versus is it tearing down Vince?
Belittling
Vince,
Laurinaitis, Lesnar.
Yes, there's a big difference between those two things. And so that's where that's
always my intention is to belittle,
of course,
the one who needs belittling and not a Janelle Grant or
Gilbert.
I hope only two other people.
Gilbert Short in the chat. I love you, Philip Morris, but it's Vince and Donald in prison. Did you ever see that movie?
No. I didn't.
Fuck. God damn it, Gilbert. Good job. Good job. Well, I don't really know how to end this other than I don't know if Jimmy John's still has sponsoring Brock, but I'm sure that iron's gonna fall soon. We do have a hotline.
Is it?
We do have a hotline.
Doesn't that guy kill endangered fucking
Jimmy
animals?
He's actually double. He's
gonna pay for his court fees.
He's a double endorsing him. Yeah, he's gonna make him wear a Jimmy John suit.
It's gonna be Brock, Laurinaitis, and Vince all at the courtroom table, fucking scarfing down some Jimmy Johns.
Jesus fucking Christ!
That's the fat koalas that they're chewing on.
We do have a hotline call to get to, but before we do that, thanks to those who joined us in the live stream. And once again, Mike Lucas, aka Hackensack, current PWP World Champion. If you want to challenge Mike Lucas in March, then you've got to become a championship level Palski over at patreon.com/PWPalskis. Thank you guys so much for joining us here in the live stream. We're going to go do some hotline action. Scott, say goodbye to the live stream.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, everybody. 747-666-5606. That is the number of the Pro Wrestling Palskis hotline, or you can send a voice memo to hotline@pwpalskis.com. Scott Narver, you want to see what the hotline has in store for us today?
Yeah, I do.
What up, y'all? This is Vicious again. I was calling yesterday because I was excited to talk about some Hall of Fame and other things like that. And then I wake up today and check out some of this news and see this crazy shit that's coming out about Vince and Brock and Johnny Yates and all this other shit. And I'm like, damn, what the fuck? I think we all knew last year when shit first started cracking down with Vince that we knew it was just the tip of the iceberg. But man, I think we're all in for a crazy ride to see how this is going to end up. And I guess my question to you guys is, how many more other people do you guys think have been involved throughout the years in this kind of shit, this kind of behavior throughout WWE's existence? I mean, obviously we see it in all kinds of other facets in industry and in other businesses and whatnot, but I'm talking the wrestling industry specifically and WWE more specifically. How many more people do you think have been involved, top tier, that we would be shocked? And my second question is, I heard something about Linda knowing something about it, finding out, and that's when this chick got fired in the first place. But I'm wondering, what did Steph know? And how much did Steph know? And how long did Steph know? And if that's all the reason of why she left. And I wonder what she has to say about the whole thing. Anyway, peace.
Remo V, he said vicious up front. I never knew that's what the V stood for. Remo V, vicious. Seems like a really nice guy in his voicemails. I don't know why. I don't know what's so vicious.
So does Sid when he's laughing.
I don't know what's so vicious about. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, let's relax on these aggressive names. From now on, the V stands for very nice.
Oh.
Remo V, very nice. All right, very nice. So we did cover some of this stuff. As far as like what did some people know? I wouldn't be surprised if Stephanie learned, because this lawsuit, it didn't get filed and it wasn't delivered the day that we saw it. Like this has been this was something that was likely presented that, I'm certain that she knew some of this stuff. And that's why that whole thank you, Vince chant is really eerie to me, under the assumption that she did know some shit was coming down the pike. Whether or not she believed it, whether or not she's at the defense of her father, who, by the way, like, I can understand somebody having a hard time. Hell, like you just said earlier, you had a hard time and he's not your dad. Like, I can understand, like, somebody like Stephanie, like, not being able to believe this and just being like, no, I do think my dad is innocent in this. And I do think maybe this isn't true, or whatever her reasons are. And I'm not going to guilt her for that, because, like, when you're that close to somebody, I can only imagine how complicated of an emotional experience that is. But whether or not she knew, I think that we will learn that in, the weeks to come,
in the courts, for sure.
In the court. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the tricky part about this, and I'm hoping I have the timeline right in front of me. I don't have it right in front of me, but I'm having.
Sure. Yes, I understand.
Someone's going to make it at some point. It's going to be fucking great. That when the board, which included Nick Khan, Triple H, and Stephanie, voted Vince out unanimously with the rest of the board, that whatever it was came to light.
Yes.
To what extent? The assumption I make is, hey, so what happened, Vince? I have women that signed NDAs and I paid them and I had sexual relationships with them. All right, well, that's a fucking nightmare. We're trying to sell this company and this is all bad and we can't be affiliated with that. Like,
right.
And then maybe there's something in the hallway. Dad, is there anything else I need to know?
Right. I could see
and
that.
Chances are, nope.
Yep.
Really? Yep. Okay.
He's also,
we're going to give you a nice send off. I'm going to do a nice thing on TV and that's going to be it. And then when he fucking January 6th it all and came back in and did his own insurrection, and that's I told you, Dad, if you did anything else,
right,
or if there's other stuff, I'm separating myself and I can't be a part of it.
I'm
going to be your daughter forever, but I'm not going to fucking do this. And you lied to me and I can't be a part of the company, like all that stuff. That's the nice assumption of it all.
And that's,
because
honestly, that's
Stephanie,
that is a very, like, believable and detailed narrative that you have created for the enters and exits of those two people within this company, and
with two executives working with each other that
I could believe
that are family.
Right. I could believe that. I would not, that's not a stretch for me. If all of that was exactly as you just said, it would make sense, especially because I picture Vince as such a chauvinist to never tell his daughter the truth about anything like this. I could see him sooner telling Paul, after Paul goes like, fucking Pops, whatever the fuck he calls him, what you got to tell me. Like, I'm trying to do something. I'm trying to keep this ship going. And I can't do it if you're mucking up the fucking works. And I can imagine Triple H standing up to his father-in-law because of their personal relationship over the years, fucking grandfathered his children. I could see him being like, I've had enough of this shit. You're going to be honest with me. And I could see Vince being like, okay, I'll be honest with you. But I could imagine him being like, oh, I'm never going to tell Stephanie. And you can't tell Stephanie.
But
either.
also, like, never telling, maybe he tells him one thing.
Right.
But it's still like,
I can see that, yeah.
I can imagine the full separation of Vince, or I guess most people that do something terrible, but then when they go home, they're with family, they're with their loved ones.
Right.
It's a different life.
100%.
Right. That it's, Vince does the terrible things because that's the sexual energy. It's living life. It's whatever those things are for him.
Whatever his awful power trip is. Yeah.
Seeing his family, and I'm keeping that separate because I'm protecting that for my family. Like, no intention, I would imagine, of Vince wanting to mess up the family dynamic any more than it's already messed up with Linda, but just
of course not.
The relationship with children, working with them, seeing his grandchildren, seeing his children on the regular, that he wants that intact.
Yeah. Not being in prison. That's also
he wants it all,
something he wants.
Right?
Yes. Yeah, no, of course. Absolutely.
So him lying to them and saying like, no, I didn't do anything wrong, or no, everything's fine, or no, what they're saying is total fabrications. And that Stephanie, she's pretty savvy politically, I think she follows in her mom's footsteps in that way, not dad's, not the one who goes on interviews and fucking slaps papers out of people's hands and
just fucking Christ. Yeah.
Gets in their face. It's, I think she knows long-term career-wise for whatever she wants to do, whether it's political or not, that she made all the right business moves. And maybe she had spoken to lawyers or something and went, I don't want to know what you did. Right. I need to know, did you break the law?
Right.
And that's enough.
Right.
That it's great.
And
then if I know any more, I don't want to go to fucking jail. That's on you.
And that's if, like, in his fucking privileged, invincible mind, whether or not he even thinks he broke the law. He might not have lied to her because he doesn't know it's a lie. He thinks he's being honest. No, I didn't break the law. Signed NDA.
Yeah.
Everything's, NDAs protect against anything, right? You can murder as long as there's an NDA.
I did things that people would frown upon, but she said yes. She said, however he's justifying it for himself. But I can't 100%. Imagine that Shane or Stephanie knew. I think they know about what we alluded to earlier, that, my dad has relationships on the side. My dad does that, but I know my parents don't live together and they do whatever they do to make him happy, but there's nothing criminal. So it's okay.
Yeah.
Those who are involved in the criminal acts, I think are probably very few. Could there be some other executive members that came and went that have been fired or have left the company? Probably, because that was a pretty big revolving door there for a little while.
Yeah, and because that was the other part of Removie's question was like, how many people do you think were new? And I do think that it's definitely a club, but I don't think it's a huge club. And I think that it's probably the old boys. That's my guess. It's the people who have been around for a long time, who are Vince's ride or dies, so to speak. I think,
it's only the power players, I feel.
Do you want to know, there's one person that we haven't talked about that I'm like, just because I know, we don't know. We assume because we have a parasocial relationship with these people, with everybody, right? I'm fascinated about Taker. For all of their relationship and all the things that have we heard from Taker at all about any of this shit?
I don't think we have. Sarah tattoo went away, I questioned everything about that man.
I just feel like, what did Taker know or didn't know? And if he didn't know any of it, what does he think right now? Is he such a company guy? And is he have such a great relationship with Vince that he goes like, oh, she's lying? Is he just gonna is he gonna be that guy? Then just disappoint us all. But I know I'm kind of fascinated.
I think
Taker's,
initially at home that, you're Stone Cold. Anybody who's been in the trenches with Vince, and they've been through everything, and it's the father figure and all that.
Right. Yeah. All that stuff.
Probably the initial is like, no fucking way. She's fucking lying. This is bullshit.
Right.
And ideally there's, you do your research, you find out about it, you hear more things, you see the cases and you go, oh, that's horrible. I didn't know that person.
But then also like I said, the Brock of it all too, because Brock is the anomaly in this because he's the talent, right? The only one that is proper talent involved in all the shit, which just kind of makes you think is he just special because he's Vince's pony boy? And is it like literally, again, you fucking trafficking this poor fucking woman and being like, hey, I want you to come back. And if you do, look at what you get to do, all this fucking horrific shit. Is this a tactic he's attempted before for other people? Or is Brock special because he's Brock?
The justification I made for this in my mind, of course, like all this shit, is he didn't have to re-sign Taker. He didn't have to worry about him going anywhere else.
Right.
Lesnar's the one who's always got one foot out the door.
Right.
Who wants to do other things. The part of it too is, as you talk about the club, I kind of make that a Saudi elite club when you've seen those dinners with Vince, Taker, and Lesnar. Like it's the...
Yeah.
And then there's the other talent sitting on the other sides, but there's a certain group where you go, forgive a lack of a better phrase, the elite.
Right.
Of them all, right? Course. Like who can get whatever they want, either by sheer strength or charisma or money. And I don't know if Taker's a little too old for that and is just not part of that because he was married or is married again and just seems like a different type.
He seems like
he doesn't have the complaints that Lesnar has had in recent years where like there was the Plane Ride from Hell episode of Dark Side of the Ring where they talk about Terry Reynolds, that incident. And other things that have been talked about in the past. I haven't heard any of those about Taker ever.
No,
mostly because he's trying to act like I'm still dead.
Right. But he seems to be sort of like, I mean, you could have whatever opinions you want on his like political leanings and all of his,
but that doesn't make for an immoral person.
Exactly. And I feel like with all of that said, he seems like a real straight and narrow, like respect driven. Everything with him seems to be respect and focus, and he's very, I mean, for Christ's sakes, like look at the fucking, self-help public speaking thing that was his, his Hall of Fame speech. Like that to me seems like the real guy. Like, and I think like it's hard to imagine those two worlds having a Venn diagram, whereas like it's easier to imagine what you said about like Vince has one circle here for his family and one circle here for his fucking depravity, and they're not a Venn diagram. Whereas everything that we know about Taker's personality that we've learned since his retirement, since kind of lowering the veil, he brought all of that to work. He brought all of that to the character of The Undertaker and the way that he dealt with business and the way that he dealt with Vince and other people. So I can imagine that there's a big spot in the middle of that Venn diagram of the person he is and the work he did. Whereas Vince, it seems to be separate.
To me, picturing Taker being the guy, like being involved in any of the stuff in the office or any of the on the jet or wherever it could have been.
Right.
It's only in the later years because everything else it's like picturing Daniel Day-Lewis. It's not a movie podcast. Daniel Day-Lewis, like leaving the set of Lincoln, and then going to the bars and going like, well, would you like to meet the president? Because it's me. Because Taker was so wrapped up in like, I have to keep this character this way. I have to protect this. I have to protect the business. I have to protect the integrity of all this. So there aren't stories of, then he kept like saying,
got into a bar
like,
fight
Paul Bearer came in the room and held the urn. And then that's when he got an erection through the power of the urn. And it was creepy, but it was kind of fun.
Right. Yeah.
I don't see it with him. And I know Cena's been talked about because I guess there was a dinner that Vince had with Cena and Janelle
a double
was
date.
there.
Yeah, like a double date or some shit like that, where Cena and his lady went out with Vince and Janelle.
And that's another one where I go, Cena's so concerned about being
image,
politically correct and welcoming to everyone. Like he had done that promotion, right, for Fast and Furious and misspoke. I don't fucking know any about it at all. Like he misspoke about another country,
right? Yeah,
and said something that caused political upsetness amongst the two. Like he had confused something, and a lot of the world went like, "What are you, an idiot?" And he basically went like, "Yeah, sorry," and immediately corrected it and went like, "I didn't mean to make that mistake. I will do better and I'll learn more." I can't imagine that he's like, "Yeah, I know this is a woman that Vince is doing criminal things with, and let's go out together."
Right.
I would think he would go, Vince has got himself a young girlfriend who's also his employee.
Right.
she seems to be consenting to this, so I'm going to assume that we're all consenting adults here and everything's okay.
Right.
Because he would otherwise go, I'm not fucking going to dinner with you. What are you, crazy?
At this point in his career, too, I'll tell you what, his fucking PR team is at work right now. John Cena, meaning like his PR team is going to approve them going out for a double date because they know photos will be taken and shit like that. Like John has reached that level of stardom at this point. But
yeah, and there certainly could be other talent. There certainly could be other execs involved. I know, people look at Kevin Dunn like he had just left with interesting timing, and I don't think anybody's safe with all this, right? Like
no.
Pritchard can be there and staying, and he's going to be subpoenaed, and you got your Kevin Dunn. It's like, yeah, the names are still going to be brought up and all this stuff, and whether everybody's clean or it's just
we're going to be seeing
knew everything.
We're going to be seeing a lot of Slim Jim sponsorships being given and taken away and given and taken away and given and taken away, depending on who is still employed throughout a hearing.
Well, hearing some about this from a legal standpoint, it was interesting, and I don't understand all of it. Again, I'm a stupid person.
Yes. You're wearing a Vanguard 1 t-shirt right now.
Yeah.
Not something a smart man wears.
I'm a fucking idiot. We have a Patreon. Please help us out. That there is a lawsuit against Vince McMahon and the WWE. So that means that hearing legal experts talk about this, that they were saying legal teams are not then shared.
No, not at all. Vince will have his own legal counsel and WWE will have legal counsel. And they can even, and probably will, attempt to throw one another under the bus. This happens.
That's exactly why.
This happens all the time. Yes, my sister is a defense attorney, this is the sort of thing that she has had to dealt with in wrongful conviction suits, where she was the counsel for one of the defendants who was a co-defendant and had to work with the other lawyer who was the lawyer of the other co-defendant, the other defense attorney. And if they don't see eye to eye, or if, the stories don't match up and it potentially creates a hole in either one, depending on who's being truthful or not, this whole thing could be a house of cards that completely crumbles.
So, yeah, going along with that WWE under TKO will make all ties, like they'll start to separate any ties that are bad, and going like, Vince is off on his own doing that. And I understand you're going after WWE, and we're going to find any and all WWE employees that need to be tried and do that. And they're going to try and separate WWE as much as possible from all that, and make sure that all the wrongful WWE people go in the camp of Vince McMahon.
Especially because there is an argument to be made that the offenses took place prior to TKO Holdings having proprietary ownership of WWE as a brand. And so by them simply getting rid of the people who are in question or who are being sued, they can attempt to essentially, I don't know if it's a demurrer, what it's called, but they can try to file not a countersuit, but a response to the suit that pretty much states those in question no longer reflect the company that is WWE. Therefore, WWE can't be liable in whatever this lawsuit is, because we are no longer that company. You sued WWE Incorporated. We are TKO Holdings, and they are two separate entities, or some. I don't know. I'm also very dumb, but but that's my general understanding of this.
So yeah, while it's bad PR for WWE and all the stuff, it's like, oh, they sold at the wrong time, or they made the Netflix deal at the wrong time. It's like, no, they probably didn't.
Also,
it's probably ultimately there's some good in that they can have this separation, and a parent company nuzzling them at their teat and caressing their head, saying it's going to be okay.
But here's the thing: is that you say that it's bad PR for WWE. It could also be good PR for TKO if they respond swiftly and quickly and without hesitation of, well, we're not sure, we're going to defend this, blah, 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 blah. Because then it's going to show shareholders that they are not a risk-taking company. that you are safe.
They could bring Dana White into the mix and go, hey, this guy ran Power Slap, and now Vince McMahon and John Laurinaitis got to Power Slap one another. And whoever gets knocked out first has to pay the majority sum.
Who do you think would die? I think Vince would. I mean, like, I think Laurinaitis is probably more brittle than Vince is. I think Vince would slap the shit out of Laurinaitis, and Laurinaitis would die, and then we could also try Vince for murder.
That Laurinaitis chin? I don't know, man.
You know what? That's a good point. Fuck them both. Hope they end up in prison. And thank you so much for the call, Remo V. Nice that we got 2 phone calls from Remo V within a year. 747.
Only the most controversial things had to happen in a couple of weeks to get 2 calls.
747-666-5606. That's 747-666-5606. Or send voice memos or any voice recording to hotline@pwpalskis.com. Keep the conversation going. You can be heard on the show. We'll talk. We'll have a chat. We'll have a little chitty chat. We have a Patreon. It just seems like odd. It just seems like a very odd thing to transition into a bunch of commercials for us. But this is what we do, kids. It's a podcast.
None of this goes to any court fees of anyone. No, it doesn't help anyone. Yet. It doesn't help out charities. It doesn't do any benefit other than to Jake and myself.
Yeah,
to continue doing the show.
Right.
To spout off uneducated law guesses. To condemn people that haven't been tried in a court of law, but God damn it, they seem gross, right?
Yeah, fuck them.
To give passes to people with horrible tattoos on their necks and go like, Cody Rhodes is A-okay.
Patreon.com/PWPalskis. Please consider becoming a patron. There's so much fun stuff there. We now have video watch along Wednesdays. I can't express to you how fun this is. We still offer the audio only version, so you can just listen along as you watch it on your TV with us, whatever it is we're watching that week. But you can now also just hop on the Patreon and watch it. Watch it via the YouTube link, or not to YouTube. I think it just goes straight on the Patreon rather. And you see the match, you see us, you hear the match. Like, it's all in one big fun experience.
It's kind of like Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Yeah.
It's like watching an episode of that. It's all there.
So please consider becoming a patron. And if you haven't checked out the shop in a while, please snag yourself some merchandise. There's really good high quality stuff there. Get yourself a t-shirt, get yourself a mug, get yourself a nice brand new hoodie. The hoodies are so comfortable. Get yourself a hat. I'm wearing this fantastic hat right now. I think I might get another one. A different color.
You should get a Hot Dog Mania hat. Relish it.
We don't have those, but we do have lots of Hot Dog Mania shirt colors and sweatshirt colors. We've got phone cases. We have the awesome. I really love the Macho. It's not Macho Man. It's obviously not Macho Man. We couldn't sell Macho Man merchandise, but it's a machismo guy. There's a machismo guy and Mrs. Beth.
Oh, Sandy Ravage and
yes, Sandy Ravage.
Ism Elizabeth.
And Ism Elizabeth. Wasn't that the daughter from Twilight? Yeah, there's some fun, great designs. Really nice, good iPhone cases as well as Samsung Galaxy cases. Tons of great fucking merchandise. Snag some shit. You can find the links to all of these fantastic things we speak about at pwpalskis.com. pwpalskis.com. Scott and I were at to thank our current Patreon Palskis.
Yes, and we have a new Maximum Male model this week. So just want to let everybody know, hey, do you have a screen name that you have maybe play on like your game consoles, and you're like, oh no, someone took it on the PS5. Oh no, I don't have it anymore. Well, this is the only place where you get a Retribution and a Maximum Male model name. Snag up backup screen names if need be. So thank you to
handing out gimmicks left and right here.
That's all we do. We just come up with dumb shit. Thank you to AJ0314, aka Binary, aka Matrice69, Alex Pierce, aka Figs, aka Zitoys, Alice Raider, aka Invasion, aka Evajois, Andrea Beeler, aka Pollen Hate, aka Achu Detest, Curtis Mason, aka Hurtis, aka new Maximum Male model name of Ouchie.
Wait, can you say it again? I like the way that you said it.
Ouchie.
Hurtis, aka Ouchie.
Gilbert Short, a.k.a. Goliathon, a.k.a. Batal Underoos. Maslama, a.k.a. Spitz, a.k.a. Jakara Lover. Michael Beltran, a.k.a. Limestone, a.k.a. La Natural. Miguel Diaz, a.k.a. Bipod, a.k.a. Too Much Husk. Mike Lucas, a.k.a. Hackensack, a.k.a. Luge Testicle, a.k.a. the current PWP champ. Suicide, a.k.a. a.k.a. Tim Bemis, a.k.a. War Trek, a.k.a. Tussle Quest. Tim Redbeard, a.k.a. Blood Fuzz, a.k.a. Blue de Fusée. Tom Hader, a.k.a. Cupid, a.k.a. Cherub. And Tony Griggs, a.k.a. Big Griggs, a.k.a. Grand Grisois.
Thanks to each and every one of you for your continued support of the program. We would not do it without you, could not do it without you. Thanks, everybody who listens. Honestly, we really appreciate you joining us and hanging out for our little starless podcast that could, listen, Scott and I would interview an old legend and get their takes on stuff. But quite frankly, we don't care to. So we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. It's always a blast hanging out with you, the Pro Wrestling Palskis.
In today's technological age, we have all the world's information at our fingertips. All of known science, pop culture, and world events happening live in HD in the palm of our hands. Yet, misinformation and easily disprovable conspiracy theories still run rampant in today's society. So imagine how easy it would be for a mistruth, for actual fake news, to gain traction and become accepted as reality to the world, say, 400 years ago. I'm speaking specifically of the first folio of the works of a writer who signed his name as Shakespeare. Printed in 1623 and attributed to a long-dead grain dealer who lived 100 miles away from London, named Shakespeare. It sounds similar enough a name, I suppose, and it's a lovely story about an artist with humble beginnings who rises to fame as the greatest writer of all time. But is it a fact, or is it widespread fiction? Join me, I'm Steven Sable, as I invite historians, researchers, lawyers, artists, authors, and more to use all the information we have available today to explore this fascinating mystery of Shakespeare authorship on my podcast, Don't Quill the Messenger. You can hear it now at don'tquillthepodcast.com or wherever you're listening to this podcast right now.
It's Dragon Wagon.